everyone. It's been a while. We've been very, very focused on the seminary content, but we have been asked, hey, could you please get back to the Ask a Witch videos and the rants and things that only go up on YouTube? So this is kind of an Ask a Witch and kind of a rant. A while ago, when Hamas had launched a terrorist attack against Israel, and Israel had begun its extremely aggressive response and started what is very apparently an ongoing attempt at complete genocide. One of my students reached out and said, hey, I keep trying to post about this situation on TikTok, and every time I post, I get just a deluge of comments, really sneering, really dismissive, accusing me of virtue signaling. And I've seen you get accused on social media of virtue signaling, and I looked it up, and I don't really feel like that's what I'm doing. I don't really feel as though I'm trying to signal to everyone what a good person I am. I feel like I'm trying to just draw attention to the issue. So, what is this? Why are they doing this? What should I do about it? How do you handle it when it's directed at you? Okay, so we'll start with the first question. What is virtue signaling? So it actually, like so many things that we teach about, goes back to Neoplatonic Christianity.
Right, first, what is virtue?
Right, what is virtue? The personifications of the virtues were a huge deal in Neoplatonic Christianity, which is in fact the basis for most of Calvinist Christianity and the culture thereof, which is the basis of the United States.
Right, America is Calvinist.
Yes, America is still Calvinist by culture, and we are still hugely heavily influenced by the medieval and Renaissance Neoplatonic movement, including this idea of the virtues and the sins. So the virtues are theological concepts such as humility, kindness, charity, prudence, sometimes wisdom, sapientia is one.
Right, they're essentially, this is a specific thing that good people do, or you become good by doing. That distinction is actually very important and heavily debated, and Neoplatonic philosophy, we're just going to ignore it for now.
Right. Are people good because they do these things?
Or are people good and good people do these things?
Right.
We're not having that argument here.
So, and this is in opposition, of course, to the theological sins. So lust, greed, pride, etc.
Right, everyone is familiar with the list of the 7 deadly sins.
Right. So there are the virtues, and there are the
vices,
the sins. There's a series of frescoes that comes up a lot in our classes of the vices and the virtues. We've talked before in a lot of our classes about how these ideas influenced everything from the development of the tarot to the development of Western Hermeticism. I'm not going to belabor that point right now. Suffice it to say, there is this concept that there are good things and bad things in human nature, and that we are constantly tugged back and forth between the good and the bad. And who determined what was good and who determined what was bad was a specific branch of Western Christianity. And we've all just been suffering under that ever since. So, to start with, virtue signaling is you are signaling, I am a virtuous person to the rest of civilization. By acting in accordance with theological virtues that were created in Neoplatonic Christianity. So that's what virtue signaling is. Look at me, I'm a good person. So to start with, that.
I want to just take a minute here and talk about what is signaling anyway. Signaling is a thing that most social creatures do often, and humans are social creatures. Humans, as a species, primary competitive advantage on an evolutionary scale is cooperation. And we cooperate in groups. and we sort of self-select into groups by signaling to each other. If you've ever worn a sports jersey, you're signaling. I'm a member of this tribe.
If you've ever worn a band shirt
your
of your favorite band.
You're signaling. If you've ever worn a pride flag, you're signaling.
Or a Star Wars shirt.
You're signaling. Signaling is a thing that we're actually doing a lot. Even accents are signaling. Clothing that you choose to wear, makeup that you choose to do, it's all a form of signaling. And it's essentially a way that people self-select into groups without having to explicitly self-select into groups. This is a good thing because it means that, by and large, a group of people has a common thing that they have all signaled to each other. This is our sort of starting point that we agree on for our cooperative enterprise. So, what is virtue signaling? It's going, I am a good person, according to this definition of good. And other people who are good join me in doing this thing. Okay.
Yeah. So, one of the other questions that this person asked was, I see you get accused of it a lot online, and I do. I get accused of it a lot. On a lot of my rants, somebody will say I'm virtue signaling in the comments. Does it bother you? And it's like, well, okay, so let's start with, I also get accused of being sinful quite a lot. So I also get comments saying I'm promoting sin, comments that I am leading people astray, comments that I'm attempting to convert or proselytize in the direction of hell.
So I have a question. If you're simultaneously promoting virtue and sin, does that mean that you're actually following a middle path?
I guess. I mean, so from my perspective, some of the things that from Calvinist puritanical Christianity get called sins shouldn't actually be sins. And some of the things that get called virtues are only virtues in moderation. I'm neither. I'm not particularly sinful, and I'm not particularly virtuous either. Of the two, I'd say I'm definitely more sinful than virtuous by their definitions. But the thing is, I'm not a Christian. I'm not Calvinist. I'm not puritanical. This isn't my system. I study Neoplatonic Christianity. I don't ascribe to it. I'm not a Neoplatonist. So these are not my good and bad. If I was going to make a list of what I consider good and what I consider bad, this isn't what it would look like. So when someone accuses me of being on one side of this teeter-totter or the other, it's not even this. I'm not on the teeter-totter.
Right. I'm over there on the slide. Right, have fun with your teeter-totter.
I'm not in this playground with you. So it doesn't really bother me. Now, what might bother me if I thought accusing anyone of hypocrisy would even mean anything these days, and it doesn't, is that the very same people who sneeringly and aggressively attack others for virtue signaling will deny that there's another kind of signaling taking place every single day, including in the comment calling out the virtue signaling. So, all day, every day, all over the internet, there are alt-right fanatics signaling to each other using coded language,
and
using blatant language, and even by leaving comments saying, you're just virtue signaling. Because it's never just the one comment, is it? It's a deluge of comments.
And you will note that in any given comment section, you actually tend to have naturally self-selected groups that wind up commenting in opposition to each other.
And there's ways that they signal to each other. And one of those is by going, you're just virtue signaling. And then all of their little buddies will come and be like, yeah, this is just virtue signaling. You're uninformed about this issue. And you should just shut up and be quiet. Or you should just go back to your regular content. Or you should be in a kitchen making a sandwich. Or whatever attack they end up leveraging against the person. But that very first comment saying, you're just virtue signaling, is in fact signaling to allies.
It's also ultimately a little strange because, yes, how dare I indicate to other people out there who might be interested in doing a good thing that I am interested in doing a good thing? How dare I?
In fact, studies have found that when someone says, hey, I found a way that we can try and do a good thing in the world, whatever it is that they point to do that good thing, whether it's donate to this charity, help out at this event, etc., those means of doing good tend to get more engagement and tend to be more successful. Every time someone shares a charity and says, hey, this is a good charity to support, look at the good that they're doing, charity gets more donations. Every time someone boosts an event and says, hey, look at this event where we can go help our community, they get more volunteers. Studies have verified that signaling to others, here is a way you can do good, actually helps good be accomplished in the world.
The fact of the matter is, I'm not going to debate in this context and at this time whether people are fundamentally good or fundamentally evil. I will say that I have witnessed an enormous number of people who want to help, who want to do good, and who have said some variation on, I wish there was something I could do. This seems so big. How can I do anything? I just don't know how to get involved. I want to help, but where do I start? I've seen those refrains. I've heard those refrains.
I've said them myself.
And so when someone posts, here is a thing, and they go, oh, I could do that thing. They do. Maybe not everyone, but there are definitely people who respond. One other note that I want to make is that, okay, the accusation of virtue signaling with a negative connotation is based in the idea that this is a false signal, that you are trying to appear virtuous without being virtuous. So it's basically an accusation of hypocrisy, which is hilarious given that the comment itself is a signal stating that signaling is hypocritical, which is itself hypocritical. So it's
It's very nested.
if you follow the logic chain, the comment is essentially null. But set that aside for a second. Let's say it is. You know, I don't know if person X genuinely believes that this good cause is something that should be supported and is going to back up their online activism with their time or their money or whatever else they can contribute. Maybe there is nothing else they can contribute.
Maybe their armchair activism is literally all they have, the spoons and the money and the resources
to be able to do. But on some level, I don't care. Because it turns out that even if the person signaling doesn't really mean it, the people who respond to the signal do. You don't have to be genuine in order to get people who are genuine following you in doing something. This can lead to some terrifying things with like groupthink and cult psychology, but it can also lead to, well, there's no practical difference between whether this person is just trying to look good or is actually trying to do good. You know, at the end of the day, if you go and help in the soup kitchen as a resume line item, you still helped in the soup kitchen.
some of these attacks on virtue signaling come across as though they are accusing the person who is supposedly virtue signaling of being sanctimonious or holier than thou. And it comes from this place, often it seems, of being like, well, I either benefit directly from the bad thing being done and would like that not to change. Or if I don't benefit directly, I at least don't want to have to care about it. I like being apathetic. I like being selfish. I like ignoring this issue. And how dare you make me feel bad about that by bringing attention to it. So I'm accusing you of actually being down here with me on my level and just lying about it.
Right. This is the South Park problem. Apathy is cool, no one really cares, good people are lying and just trying to make themselves seem better than you. The fact of the matter is that's not true. There are actually people who genuinely want better things for other people without having a selfish motive. You can just want other people to have a better life without getting anything out of it. And either this is a concept that these people cannot grasp, and so they say, what are you getting out of this? Oh, you're getting to look good. Or this is something that makes them feel guilty, either because they benefit directly from whatever problem you're talking about, and they go, no, I don't want to think about the fact that this horrible thing is happening to someone else, and that's what makes my comfortable lifestyle possible. Shut up. Or they're going, no, don't care. If you care, that means that people care, and then I'm a bad person for not caring. Instead of just a normal person, because nobody cares. You're not allowed to do that. So it's this very...
It always reminds me of the prince from a movie Ever After. Because he has this moment where he says, you know, I always thought if I cared about anything, I'd have to care about everything, and I'd go stark raving mad. And I'm like, okay, kind of sympathies.
Right. On the one hand, you're not wrong, right?
Right? Like, it definitely feels some days like there's so much to care about, and I'm just gonna go crazy. Crazier. Saw that laugh. But also, like, okay, there is a lot. There is a lot. I sympathize. It is, in some ways, easier to just go be numb and be apathetic and let it wash over you. But attacking others who have not become numb and apathetic, not helpful. Because then you're still engaging with the issue. You're still investing the effort and the time.
You're just engaging from the wrong side. One thing I will say, and this is not really a call to action, because by and large, if you're on the side of trying to draw attention to social issues and you've got people accusing you of virtue signaling, you're already pretty exhausted, and deprogramming is not top of your list. But it is worth noting that for anyone who feels like they're being attacked by someone else being virtuous, the internet is anonymous. No one has to know that you've been apathetic until right now. You can decide at any time, actually, maybe I will care about that. Maybe they care, and I could too? That's a choice you can make. And if you have the spoons, it's a choice you can encourage people to make. The fact of the matter is, look, there is a critical mass of people that you can get invested in the well-being of others that can cause real meaningful change. You can look throughout history at times when this has happened. You can also look throughout history at times when people are sufficiently invested in their own horrible conditions, and some combination of the two groups has affected real meaningful change. And quite frankly, that's also applicable. So there is an opportunity there for people who want to take it.
As for how, for this student, I feel like you should handle it, I'd say that it's entirely up to you whether you want to, as Ian just did, extend some compassion to the person who is attacking you and accusing you of virtue signaling, or like I do, ignore them entirely. I would say that in many cases, the person who is commenting is likely to belong to groups that are using particular methodology to radicalize people and keep them radicalized, where the harsher you attack them, the more likely it is that they will become increasingly radicalized. We've talked about this in previous classes and videos. It's a method used by fundamentalist and extremist Christian organizations, for example, where they proselytize and attack. They then get attacked back, and then they run back to the sheltering warmth of this extremist organization, and they say, I was attacked. They're like, oh, poor baby, sweetie pie, yes, come back to us. We are your only loved ones. We are your only family. We are the only ones who understand you, and the world is evil and bad, and we will protect you from it. And then they go out into the world and they attack again, and they get attacked, and they creep further and further towards a fanatical and extreme position. So I'm not going to tell you not to lash back at someone who is lashing out at you, because we're human and sometimes it happens. But I'm going to say that it is a tactic increasingly used to radicalize people. And if someone is attacking you online for virtue signaling, chances are that they're on that pipeline, that
or that they're trying to that there's someone who is one of those recruiters who is trying to create a scenario that they can show to the people they're recruiting.
Yeah, and just the debate can sometimes feel cathartic, but it is also a recruitment tool. So keep that in mind. I'm not judging you one way or another how you respond. I don't always have the spoons to respond compassionately like Yen was advocating for and attempting to do with this video. So a lot of the time I just let the comment slide or delete it when I have the ability to do so. Okay. This was kind of an Ask a Witch, it was kind of a rant. Please feel free and encouraged to send us Ask a Witch questions and rant topics that you'd like to hear our opinions on, because we are trying to fit these back in around our current course schedule on the seminary, which includes herbalism, tarot, and an upcoming course on death magic, which starts in mid-February and will be enrolling in over the next few days. Anyway, be safe out there, everyone, and have as best a day as you can. Lynx, will you please stop licking me? Why are you licking me? She's just repeatedly, like, sandpapering my hand. Okay.
Got that out of that thing.
My cat's licking me really hard, and I'm trying not to, like, twitch on camera and just get through the sentence, and no, that's not happening, so.